Joining me today, we have Rob Bergmann from Relevant Gold. Rob, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Rob, let's start off with the conference that we're here for, Beaver Creek. Last year we were here, I felt like the mood was a little, we'll say, depressing with a lot of the juniors that we were talking with about their gold projects, their ability to raise money. How do you feel the sentiment is this year towards the gold space?
Well, I think the sentiment in general is definitely turning in the right direction and upward direction. I think that's evidenced by how busy this conference is. I waited in line for my badge for a tremendous amount of time, which I think is a good sign. I think it's still a challenging market for the smaller juniors as far as raising capital, and those that can secure the capital definitely are in a good position in this market, able to get the work done that they're trying to do as we look to a turn of the markets here in hopefully the near term.
So let's talk about Relevant Gold. You guys are a exploration company out of Wyoming. I don't think we've talked to anybody from Wyoming before. What's the story? Can you give us a quick high-level overview?
Yeah, so you guys being from Canada, you're probably familiar with the Abitibi gold belt. It's one of the most prolific orogenic gold systems on Earth. Produced over 250 million ounces or so in the last 150 years. Now imagine if you could go back to the Abitibi before those discoveries were made, but with all the knowledge, science, and toolkit that we have now from that development. That's what we're doing in Wyoming. The thesis stems from scientific literature where we identified that Wyoming was connected to the Abitibi gold belt during that critical gold mineralization event, which was 2.7 billion years ago. And then later you had your tectonic rifting that moved those provinces apart to where it currently resides in Wyoming. So we started to target these very large Archean belts cutting all the way across the state of Wyoming and built an incredible team, very large land package. We've got over 50,000 acres and 5 district scale assets, and we're chipping away through the discovery process.
So are there any major gold projects in production right now in Wyoming?
There's not any major producers in the gold space quite yet. US Gold Corp is quickly advancing their project, their CK project outside of Cheyenne, and receiving permits quite ahead of schedule, to my understanding. It's an incredible jurisdiction to operate that is really deeply entrenched in natural resource development. Everything from coal, oil and gas, uranium, trona, and so the state itself being the least populated state and having a GDP that's so heavily dependent on natural resource development just creates a really good jurisdictional environment to operate and develop.
So what does the exploration plans look like for you guys right now? How are you guys going about it?
Yeah, so we've had a very busy year. We closed our financings in kind of late June, early July. We brought in Kinross Gold as a strategic investor, which was great. And we've been kind of executing our exploration plans since, developing our Bradley Peak camp, which is starting to look very, very good. Every day we spend time on the ground out there where we're identifying very high-grade gold, copper, and silver system in these kind of 2+ kilometer shear zone trends there. So that's quickly rising to the top for drilling next year. And then we're also just about to start our drilling campaign at our Lewiston project, where we're going to be drilling the Burr target. Now, this is where the highest grade historic mines in all of the South Pass camp existed, and that's what we're targeting, is the extension of those ore shoots from the historic mines. Those mines only mine down to about 30 meters of depth, and so it's really, and it's never been drilled. So we're looking to get some holes into that here this year as well.
So if I'm thinking about Wyoming as a jurisdiction, why do you think it's been overlooked in the past by mining investors?
Well, I think a lot of it is the science, and it really hasn't been overlooked. It's just been different parts of the sector. Again, uranium has been a cornerstone of Wyoming from a natural resource development for a very long time. But I do believe that the thing that we're offering the market is the understanding of something of scale, that there's big system potential throughout Wyoming because we have one of these deep-rooted Archean structures that tapped into a long life of fluids. And that probably has implications on not just the precious metal endowment, but the battery-based metals, uranium, and all of those kind of different mineralizing systems throughout the state. And so I think it's actually growing increasingly and expeditiously right now in the eyes of investors and investment because it continues to prove itself as a great jurisdiction to develop and operate in.
So you've got Kinross, as you mentioned, invested. Rob McEwen also we see is an investor. How'd you manage to get some of the major names like these guys involved?
I think some of these groups are very sophisticated investors, right? And I think at the end of the day, the data kind of speaks for itself. The thesis is big, right? If we're right on this, we're on the precipice of defining a new belt scale system across the state of Wyoming. So there's really a tremendous amount of the upside there. We're very high grade. We know folks like Mr. McEwen love high-grade systems, developing the Red Lake Gold Camp. So I think it's the combination of the high grade, the very large belt scale opportunity, which creates a tremendous amount of upside for a group like Relevant Gold. We like to look at it as creating a true pipeline of discovery opportunities. And then I think outside of that, the geology. You get out, you see these rocks, you look at what the rocks are in the Abitibi, and then you go to Wyoming, and it's Archean greenstone belt rocks. They are the same type of rocks that are hosting this mineralization. So you combine all of those elements, then led by an incredible team, and I think we've got kind of that special sauce for, as we especially look to turn into a bull market cycle.
Okay, so Rob, if I'm an investor in the company or I'm watching the company, what am I looking out for over the remainder of the year?
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of continued news flow, all results-based news flow in the next kind of 2 to 4 months, both off the back end of our exploration at Bradley Peak. We're waiting on some final results from that program, our mapping and sampling, moving into the permitting phase there for drilling next year. And then our drilling at Lewiston, which will be kicking off here, and that's going to be, again, rolling out our results on that. We've got some regional work happening as well. So again, a lot of results-based news flow in the very near term, and we're really looking to ramp up into 2025 and kind of get a full head of steam behind our drilling campaigns as, again, we hope for a turn in the markets, but ultimately we've systematically moved our portfolio up that value curve. And not only have we done a good job of having success in proving up the thesis, but we're at kind of that turning point now of being able to rate and rank our best and top targets and focus our drilling dollars moving forward. And that's the plan.
Well, Rob, thanks very much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll continue to chat as you guys continue to prove out a major discovery.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.